Historically, the facilities along this peninsula were central to Soviet defense, and as Russia's relations with the West have gotten colder while its ambitions have grown larger, they're viewing the region's defense capabilities as vitally important once again. As analysts have noted, this investment has little to do with any sort of race to the Arctic or the Arctic itself, and more to do with a return to a strategy called bastion defense. Effectively, the country wants to create an air and sea buffer between itself and other nations that ensures freedom of movement across the Barents and Norwegian seas for its northern fleet, along with its increasingly important northern natural gas industry. What makes this particular bastion so critical for Russian defense is the fact that this area harbors what's believed to be about 2/3 of Russia's nuclear strike capabilities in its ballistic missile submarines, which operate as a key nuclear deterrent and the nation's second strike capabilities should it be attacked. So, while at the periphery of the world from most's perspective, this area is already central to Russian defense, which means increased traffic creates an increasingly paranoid Russia. The invasion of Ukraine has only added to the paranoia. For one, Russia's invasion has shaken up the map of the High North, pushing the long neutral neighbors in Finland and Sweden to join NATO, making the High North a 7-1 split between NATO and non-NATO nations. While a repercussion of their own actions, this has only served to further the sense of encirclement for Russian military planners. And making Russia more concerned is the fact that it was the Northern Fleet's ground resources that led the invasion into Ukraine in the first place. February of 2022, when Russian onlookers began to share on social media trainload after trainload moving tanks and army trucks south, it was resources being mobilized from the Arctic that they were capturing. In the weeks that followed, those resources, much of the 200th Brigade, were dramatically beaten back, then bogged down on the outskirts of Kharkiv, ensuring there'd be no quick return. While exact numbers are difficult to come by, only an estimated fifth of the 200th Brigade has remained stationed on the Kola Peninsula, while the failed attempt to seize Kharkiv decimated the fleet's ground forces. At the same time that Russia has moved troops away from the High North has also become more economically central to the country. Total trade across the North Sea route hit an all-time high in 2022, while new LNG terminals above the Arctic Circle went online, using the North Sea route to move product to China. That came with invasion, Russia has diverted traffic of crude oil bound for Asia through the Arctic, while reportedly beginning to build a ghost fleet of tankers that have been quietly tracking across the region to avoid sanctions entirely. Taken together, what's long been understood from a Russian perspective as a military stronghold has become increasingly important economically, increasingly hostile militarily, and increasingly vulnerable. Feeling cornered, the nation has taken to lashing out with aggressive military maneuvers, joint military exercises with China, and going as far as destroying infrastructure like undersea cables. Much of the sensationalism of the increasing military importance of the Arctic, then, can be explained by the collision of two very different geopolitical narratives. In the West, the US and its allies in NATO are dramatically falling behind Russia in Arctic capabilities, so it must rush to catch up. In Russia, it seems the rest of the world is pushing to encircle and endanger its northern coast, an area strategically important for its defense and its economy, so it must dig in.